because the mind is the electricity sparking through that flesh. Food will change the electricity in your brain. Mind diet will hold off dementia, and intermittent fasting might make you feel like you've had a cup of coffee once you get in a rhythm on it. It's not going to make you smarter, but it'll bring you to your most focused. It's not hard, and this is the best we can do for ourselves. There are trials at cancer centers where cancer patients are taking psychedelics to deal with the existential crisis of a cancer diagnosis. It could give you a real sense of what is identity. I think if there's a cancer patient and they want to try it and we can study and learn from it, why not have something more in the toolbox for the psychological weight and difficulty they're going with? Psychedelics tend to work in that way. The mechanism in the brain, it's mysterious. There are certain receptors that get activated. Serotonin is one of them. And psychedelics are the thing that, it's the strange, we're wildly creative in our dreams. The things we think of in our dreams and don't remember. So clearly the machinery is there in our mind. Let's just say that. How do we access that? There's actually FDA approved a sticker that is electromagnetic, and somehow, beyond my understanding, those patients live longer with their cancers. Electromagnetic manipulation isn't just for brain enhancement, that the cancer cells that grew in the flesh of our brain are also electrically responsive. It's an ocean of electric jellyfish. And then there are other things where these electrical currents coming down, if you magnetically stimulate or electrically stimulate, or even when the skull is open, I can physically stimulate the brain and make it squirt chemicals, that you're dancing with this electricity and these chemical charges that are bouncing between each other. So then the number of brain cells becomes less relevant and more about what's happening in between them. That's why I just think the future for brain science, brain health is going to be even better than what we've already seen. But we have just started to manipulate the mind. As you grow, the way electricity flows, the way the connections prioritize is a bit like skiing down a mountain. So these pathways, these habits in our mind, these rituals, these things that are good for us, we want to hold on to those. But a lot of them have become deeply routes down the mountain. And filling those in, burying them, and finding healthier ones is going to be an energy expending process. The effort will be harder in the beginning. And then as you create a new route down the mountain, you can condition yourself to having more favorable and constructive responses. Because it's such an energy hog, it wants to be efficient. So this whole myth about you only use 20% of your brain. No, we use 100% of our brain, and pictures show that. But to get things done, we might only use 15. To get something complicated done, we might only use 35. You were born with more brain cells as a kid than you are as an adult. And
because we're losing them slowly over time?
We're equipped with a lot that we can't hold on to. You're going to reinforce the ones that you're using, and the ones you don't use, your brain will say, I don't need to hold on to them because they're just using energy. I hope that empowers people to be like, wait a second, it's not a static thing. And much I would exercise for my body, there are things maybe I should do for my brain and mind, especially while the window is still here. There's no doubt that the ability, this plasticity we're talking about, is highest in your teens. And that's actually when you get a lot of mental health disorders. It's a weird thing. The most dynamic shape-shifting is in adolescence. So we come into our identity. It's also a peak of mental health issues. So you're sort of setting your cognitive and emotional thermostat. And then 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. It does slow down, but it doesn't wither to zero. I don't take care of people with mental health issues. In a neurosurgery, sometimes we do place catheters into the emotional hubs inside our brain. So the thinking brain's like a mushroom cap.
To what end?
You can electrically break an obsessive compulsive disorder habit. Depression, OCD, and obesity, the drive to eat, it can all be modulated, and they're all housed near each other. That speaks to what they are, is an imbalance of the emotional drive with the ability for the frontal lobes to tamp down some of these instincts. It's instinctive to eat. Sometimes it can feel instinctive to be depressed. And sometimes obsessive compulsion is is a part of our brain, and it's a natural part of our brain. It's okay to have those feelings. When you have them too much, the imbalance isn't just electrochemical in those emotional hubs. It's the frontal lobes not accessing their potential to tamp down some of the emotions. Some people actually have the frontal lobe element, and that thinking of creating new habits, creating new values, creating less triggers in your life. The frontal lobe regulation of how we feel is in your own command. That shows that thinking can change. Thought can change how fast your heart beats. Why wouldn't we believe that thought can change those subcortical structures about anxiety and depression? If you get depressed, you can get stuck. But people who aren't having those mental health issues, but just want to be better and live a more rich life in the sense of personal experience, we can think about our lives and our habits and triggers and create effects inside us. The mind-body connection is mind down to body, but those connections are real. You see examples around you. It's not a simple one. It's not a quick fix. It's not going to be a bullet. It actually takes work. And you mentioned repetition. It takes work. It takes effort. And there is no shortcut to it. But it's a glacial change that can happen over a few months to a few years. And I think once, like people go to the gym, they can't not go to the gym anymore.
Why do you want to work out? What is your goal? The most important thing is that you have a vision, that you have a goal. Because without that vision and without that goal, again, you're drifting around and you're never going to end up anywhere. People don't become successful just by accident. Maybe the guy that found gold in California and started the gold rush, but don't count on that. That's the one in a lifetime kind of a situation. So you got to really have a specific goal. And to me, to have that vision that I want to be Mr. Universe, that I want to be the greatest bodybuilder of all time. That was a great vision, and that specifically to look like Reg Park and to be up there on that stage and to lift the trophy overhead and to win the championship over and over and over again. So that was a great goal. You have to have a goal. Now, it doesn't have to be that specific goal, but it has to have some goal. This is why I always recommend to people, sit down, take your time, and start thinking about, why do you want to work out? What is your goal? It can be as crazy as it is. It could be, I want to impress girls. If that's your goal, so be it, but it motivates you. It could be that you're emulating a certain, bodybuilder or a certain football player, a certain boxer, whatever it is. Have those pictures put all over the wall like I did when I was a kid. I put pictures of Reg Park and of Sonny Liston, of boxers and of Ali and of powerlifters and weightlifters all over my bedroom, wall. So that every day when I go to sleep, every day when I wake up, I look at those pictures and they motivate me. You need that motivation, and then therefore you have this kind of imprint in front of you all the time, and you know exactly what you're chasing. People always come up to me and says, why are you smiling? You're working out 5 hours a day. You're doing the same as the other guys, but the other guys have a sour face. They're pissed off that they have to do another rep or another set or something. I looked forward to another 1,000 reps of sit-ups. I looked forward to another 500 pounds of leg press or squat. I looked forward to doing more and more curls until my arms fall off. Why? Because I knew that every rep that I did and every set that I did and more weights that I lifted, I get one step closer to turning that vision into reality. So I was turned on by that. I was excited. I couldn't wait to get to the gym. I remember that when I weighed 245 pounds, and Bob Raferson, the director of Stay Hungry, said to me that I'm interested in having you come in for a reading and work on your acting and all this because I'm interested in having you in a movie to star with Jeff Bridges and with Sally Fields. I was delighted about that. I was excited, and I started pumping up more and more. And then he said, but I don't want you to weigh more than 210 pounds. You want me to be in the movie, but I'm weighing 245, 246. I say, I just won the Olympia, I say, which was 1974. And I was really at my biggest. And but he demanded that. And he says, look, it's very simple. On the day we start shooting, he says, I'm going to put you on a scale. And if you don't make the 210, you're out. because I have someone else in mind. And I worked on it. I started visualizing myself very clearly as a lean athlete, because that's the only way I could lose that weight and all of a sudden get interested in running more. Because up until that point, I ran like 3 miles after training or before training or whatever. But now all of a sudden it was 5 miles, 6 miles, 7 miles, 8 miles. And they even ran mini marathons in order to lose the weight. And I did everything with high reps. And I was watching my diet, what I eat and all those kind of things. And by the day before, I remember we were in Birmingham, Alabama. The day before I was at the YMCA with Bob Raferson. He was swimming, and I was working out, and I was running. There was a track there, and I was running. He says, let's step on the scale. And I stepped on the scale, and I weighed 209. So it just shows to you what is possible if you visualize exactly what you want to look like.
Visualization, the recreation of images, sounds, and environments before it has happened, is one of the most powerful skills in the world. A very powerful meditation and mindfulness practice, visualization has been used for centuries to help prepare the mind, the body, and the consciousness for upcoming challenges, situations, and circumstances. Some of the world's greatest athletes use visualization as a way to prepare for big games, the big day, musicians for their new concerts and tours, and CEOs for their very important meetings. Psychologist Alan Richardson set out to prove the power of visualization through an experiment that I want to share with you today.
That's great. Do tell.
Richardson gathered a group of basketball players and arranged them into 3 different groups. The intent of this study was to demonstrate the effectiveness of visualization in how the players converted free throws.
Nothing but net.
The 3 groups were as follows. The first group practiced 20 minutes every day. The second group visualized themselves making free throws but didn't participate in practice. The third group did not practice free throws or visualization at all.
You don't have to do anything.
The results were absolutely staggering. The group that only visualized free throws and didn't practice at all showed marked improvement and were nearly as accurate as the ones that practiced for 20 minutes every single day.